Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing tonight? Hope you guys are having a much better week than I am. um, yeah, kind of got home a little late tonight, and so I figured I didn't have anything prepared for, or I didn't have a block prepared for the farmer's wife quilt. So, truth be told, I also didn't want to do anything difficult tonight, so I'm just sewing crumbs. And scraps together because, well, my little crumb bin is kind of a little bit overflowing. So I figure tonight will be a good night to actually work on some of that. Ooh, my hair is all, sorry, my hair is a mess, I know too. So, but let's do some quick shout outs to see who is here. Okay, we got Donna Hoskin is here, Katie Crafts is here, Kat F is here, Shirley Kissinger is here. Hello, guys. Irish Sail Lady is saying hello. And we got Linda Faust here. Hi, Linda. And Sinfor says, can't stay long as we're heading out to dinner in a few. Sushi! Ooh, save me some. Jackie is here. Hello, Jackie. Mona did what? Hello, Mona. And Kelly's Quilting Cruises is saying hello to everyone. Hope you all had an excellent day. Thank you, Kelly. Hope you did too. And let's see. Did I miss anybody? So with Debbie. Hello, Debbie. Sin Forest is asking, how are you feeling? Much better, I hope. I am feeling better. Just a little tired, actually. Yeah, it was kind of sluggish all day. Don't know why. Maybe I just didn't sleep well last night. So, or maybe the traffic just got to me. Actually, the traffic kind of did get to me because, well, not sure what happened, but it took me a little longer than expected to get home. I'll say that. Okay. Let's see. Sorry. So tonight is just going to be kind of a slow, or I don't want to say basic, easy night. I'm not really doing any major project, not doing a block from the farmer's wife quilt because the past couple of them have been kind of crazy. So I just wanted to kind of take it easy tonight, just chill, relax, chat with everybody here. And yeah, just take it easy for once tonight. Sorry, let me just kind of do something real quick. There we go. Okay, so if you haven't noticed, I do start, or I have been kind of turning on the subscriber mode. This is just because lately I have noticed that there have been a few individuals, or actually I shouldn't say individuals, they're probably just machines that have been kind of spamming the channel. And so I have a feeling that they might start coming into the live chats, which is a little irritating. So I do have the subscriber only mode turned on just to address that issue. Let's see. Do you have 1-ton soup? No, I do not. And I'm not really, because of my, well, I'm trying to stay off carbs because of the diabetes that I do have. So can't really eat noodles. Not really supposed to eat noodles. So can't really do 1-ton soup. Okay, so, but making crumbs is always good. Yep. Well, making crumbs is not always good in my case. Sewing crumbs is good though. Making crumbs is just to me, I just take it as though you are being productive or working on a project. Okay, so yeah, let me kind of tell you what Let's see what happened this weekend. So we did have our monthly Zoom call, and we had quite a few new people join in. So to those of you who joined in, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And we kind of went for, geez, we started at 12, and we didn't, well, we didn't finish until 6:30. So again, a 6-hour Zoom. And, most of us we just work at our own pace. We if we get tired of doing the project, or if we're tired of sewing curves, we work on another project, and we just start talking to each other. And sometimes we get a little bit quiet because we're all concentrating, but somebody will say something and the discussion will revive itself. So anyway, I was trying to figure out how I was going to do the layout on my quilt, and that's what you see behind me. Not quite sure. Well, I am putting the blocks on point, as you can see. Whoops, my microphone stand just came off. Hold on a second here. Let me retighten that up. Sorry about that. So I am planning on putting the blocks on point, but I didn't want to have this whole area just be plain. And so I was toying around with ideas as to how I can fill in the space. Otherwise, you just got a lot of negative space there in between as your side set triangle. So, but this is the status of what my quilt top looks like right now. If you are part of the Treasure Heart Creations Facebook group, there is a post from one other participant who is doing a similar quilt to this, and I gotta say, her fabrics are gorgeous. Oh my gosh. When we saw when she finally lifted it up, and when we saw what she had created, my gosh, I wanted to run out and go to the store and buy that fabric line. So yeah, that was Saturday. And then I've been trying to do a Saturday Night Live, but I don't think I'm going to do it every single weekend. So especially on the weekends that we have our monthly Zoom call, I'm probably not going to do a live. But this Saturday we'll see what project I have to do with it. So anyway, that was the Zoom call. That was on Saturday. Let me scroll a little bit back here, because I do see that the chat, or a few more people is, let's see, waiting on the rest of the chat crew. Okay. That was Katie Crafts. Hello, Ms. Remo. She's reminding everybody to thumbs up and show your support. Thank you, Remo. Missed those comments. Sorry. How am I feeling? That was Remo J. I'm feeling much better. Still kind of having a little bit of a migraine to deal with, but feeling much better. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just feel kind of tired tonight. So I'm not going to really stay on too long, which is partially the reason why I didn't want to do another farmer's wife block. And quite honestly, I need a break from that, because the last couple have been pretty involved. So I figure tonight will be a good night to just sew some crumbs together, hang out with you guys for a little while, and yeah. Always good to do some mindless sewing every so often. So let's see what else has been going on. If you haven't caught the Sobeka traveling quilt, again, if you type in exclamation, oh, let me just type it in, exclamation Sobeka, and you'll get the next installment, or you'll get the links to the next installment of this traveling quilt. So, and check it out, because this particular, this month's creation was I found it quite interesting. So check that video out. Let's see. So Katie Crafts is saying cottonwood fluff has my allergies and an upper eyes are sore and itchy. Oh, Katie, make sure you take some antihistamines. Hello, Miss Sue. That's Susan Leong. And hello to anyone I missed. Okay, that's Kelly. Hey, Damali. Let's see. And Miss Around to It, she's saying hello. She's waving hello. Pearl Medina from Moreno Valley. Hey, Pearl. And Miss Around to It says, I really enjoyed the Zoom. Well, I'm glad you did. Yeah, we had fun just talking and just sharing stories about various things. And let me just kind of scroll down the chat. I see a lot of people saying hello to each other. So hello, welcome, welcome. Diane Watson is here. Happy Tuesday. Sandy Adger is here. Donna. Sheila Willis. Hey, Sheila. How you doing, girl? Okay. And Donna Hoskin has typed in the question, or called out the question of the video. So I was kind of thinking, you know, a lot of us have different definitions of what a scrap is, or even what a crumb is, and we all use our scraps in different ways too. So first of all, well, I kind of wanted to throw the question out there to see, what do people consider a crumb? For me, a crumb piece is any piece that is smaller than 2.5 inches. I go by size. Yeah. I know for a lot of people, a crumb piece is a lot larger. But for me, I like the tiny pieces. So any piece that is irregular shaped like this, or any piece that is smaller than 2.5 inches but bigger than 1 inch, I'll say that, I will consider that a crumb. But I know that's not going to be the same definition with a whole ton of other people, because a lot of people just don't like tiny pieces. I know that. So what is your definition of what a crumb piece is? Do you go by size, or do you go by shape? How do you classify what a crumb is? Time for crumbs. Yes, Sandy. Let's see. So it Debbie says a crumb for her is 1 inch to 1.5 inch or small odd size fabric. So, okay. And Candy Grubisic says, you were just picking and choosing blocks from the farmer's quilt books, weren't you? Yes, I was. Damali J says, a crumb to me is 1.5 to 3.5 strips or blocks. Okay. Donna Hoskins, she says, crumbs are small leftover fabric, odd sizes, and cutoffs from HSTs. Okay. And Candy Grubisic says, for me, crumbs are the parts that have odd shapes that didn't make it into a 1 inch or larger square, strip, or rectangle. So we all got different definitions of what a crumb is. And it's not to say one is right and the other is wrong. I mean, we're not the quilting police here. So It's whatever you make of it. Ooh. Okay, so let me switch the cameras around so you can kind of see what I'm sewing. Like, look at that. Is that a 1 inch? It's, yep, that is barely a 1 inch size. And that's a perfect definition of a crumb for me. Yep, and I will keep that and sew it. Now, a lot of times I get these triangles in which I will save these for, if I'm doing a string block and I get to the corner edge, sometimes I'll save it, but tonight I'm just going to sew it. And here I got some white strips. I actually collected a whole bunch of white strips there. Whoops. Okay. You could turn up the volume just a smidge. The volume is on full blast for me, so it's not on my end. Sorry about that, cat. In fact, the volume on my end is reaching into the red zone, which also means that it's sort of damaging the microphone. Yeah. Okay. See, Jackie says between 1 inch and 2 inch, anything smaller I don't keep. I don't have the patience for anything smaller. Yeah. Okay. Sorry guys. I know the volume is, well, the microphone is on full blast, so it's gotta be something on your end. Sorry about that. And crumbs are great to use in wall art quilts that are fused or versus sewn. Interesting. I do know a lot of people that that do collage quilting, and they will use crumbs a lot of times to do those type of art quilts, and they turn out beautifully, actually. And let's see, I can sew these two triangles together. Okay, and I'm just chain piecing all of these together. Yeah, see, this is how much I had. And it's all gonna get tangled up. But that's okay, at least I'm using it up. All right. Okay, bread is out the door, is out the oven, so we're heading out the door for dinner. Have a good evening, everyone. Be back tomorrow and catch the replay. All right, Sin, have a good dinner. Eat enough for the rest of us. Okay, I think this actually came from an ornament. I will sew that together. Yeah, see, here's an odd shape piece in which I could take this with one of these white strips and I will sew that together. Hello, Miss Katie. Hello, Debbie. And Donna Hoskins is asking, do you make fabric with crumbs? I try to make between 12 to 18-inch widths and then decide whether to keep going or make blocks. I make 4.5-inch blocks. So I keep going until I get a 4.5 inch, or if I get until I get enough to make a 4.5-inch block, and just make a collection of them. Have a whole bin where all of these are just 4.5-inch crumb squares, as I call them. Some of the pieces are a little bit bigger than, because I just didn't want to deal with the fabric, so I just threw it in the crumb bin. But I do plan on using them in the future for a future project, or sometimes I just, if I need a charity quilt, I'll maybe take out a square like this, put some flying geese around it. There you got a star. So I've just been accumulating a collection of these 4.5-inch crumb squares. Now, why 4.5 inches? Well, if you sew 3 of them together, you can kind of make a 12.5-inch block. Or if you make like a 4.5-inch or a 9 patch out of those 3, or 9 of them, you get a 12.5-inch block. So, yeah. Okay. Then the rest of these pieces, well, let's see, I can put this one with this. Okay. Yeah, sometimes you just need to have some mindless sewing, and good for the mental health, right? Yeah. It was so funny on Saturday during our Zoom call. I'm supposed to be working on that quilt, but I ended up just sewing crumbs by the end, because my brain just did not want to think. So I said, okay, let's switch gears here. And we just ended up sewing crumbs. Okay, that is not wide enough for me. So I'm going to toss these 2 strips, because it's just not going to be worth it to sew it onto something. There we go. Okay, and these are a little, I might be able to use, no. I'm just going to toss these because they're a little too small for me. And I will sew this to a white strip that I have here. Sew this onto a white strip. Let's see. Irish Sail Lady says, I gave my 2 granddaughters a roll of adding machine tape and scraps and showed them how to sew on. When we meet again, we will make blocks. Ooh, that's a good way to teach youngsters about, or introduce them to sewing or quilting. Crumb tape. That's what I tend to call it. I don't know if there's an official technique to it. I just call it crumb tape. Now, yeah, this was definitely leftovers from an ornament. Maybe I should save this to make more ornaments. Yeah, I'll save that. That's what I'll do. Okay. So now I will... Oh, do I have a small piece here? Yep, we do. So I have all of these crumbs all sewn together. The rest of these white strips, I'm actually gonna just save it, put it back in the bin. And these guys, well, whoops, sorry about that. Hit the camera. And we're gonna start separating. Okay, this is just mindless sewing. And yeah, sometimes you just need it, right? Okay, so let me do this. Easier to store, I would think. Yeah, actually. Okay, let me scroll back up. Katie Craft says, I am scrap and crumb resistant. Really trying to change that. I have bags of scraps. You know, Katie, you just gotta let go of your inhibitions, let go of whatever perfectionism, and just have fun with it. Seriously. I mean, once you get over that hump, you'll, well, at least for me, when I got over that that feeling that everything had to be the same, that everything had to have its own place, you know, when I got over that feeling, gosh, it just opened the door for me in terms of what I could create, and it made quilting a lot more exciting. Because I know for a lot of people, they don't like scrappy, and they don't like scrap quilts, but and I used to be that way too, because I always thought that you know, quilts, how all the quilt blocks needed to be of a certain color, they all needed to look the same, and I thought that that would look best. But once I got over that hump of, you know, same matchy matchy, and started doing scrappy, and started embracing scrappy, I should say, you know, it really opened up the door of, or a level of creativity for me. So, you know, I commend you for wanting to change and wanting to try, but at some point you just gotta say to heck with it and just go with it, and let your imagination guide you, or just let go of your inhibitions, let your imagination guide you, because you probably will surprise yourself as to what you kind of create. So anybody else have any advice about how to overcome that restriction, that mental restriction? See, and around to it says, I am using crumbs and 1-inch strips to make a 3.5-inch log cabin block. Whoa, you are brave for going that small on a log cabin block. I think the smallest one I've made, I mean, I experimented once and I made I think it was a 5-inch, or no, 5.5-inch unfinished log cabin block that was 3/4 of an inch, that had 3/4 of an inch strips. Don't ask me why I was crazy enough to do that. No. Okay. Let's see. Remo J says, sorry I missed you Saturday. Crazy crazy day dealing with my dad. Please keep my dad in your prayers. Well, yeah, I was wondering what happened to you, Remo. Hope dad's okay. Hope you're okay too. I know. Yeah, sometimes parents will drive us nuts, and so it's also very important to keep your sanity. But um, yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna join. I know you were asking for the information, so and but um, yeah, sad to hear that Dad is was driving you crazy or had issues. So hope he gets better. Okay, I'm just gonna finger press these for now, and let's see. We start joining other pieces to other pieces. So I do not care if I have the same fabrics on these blocks. I know some people have this stigma against having, oh, if it's a scrappy quilt, it's supposed to be all different fabrics. I don't care about that. As long as I will say though, the more fabrics that or fabric scraps that you throw into a scrappy quilt, the better it actually looks. But I mean, if I have two fabrics that are the same within the same quilt, I don't care about that. As long as they're not directly next to each other, that's my only rule about it. Okay. Ooh-wee. You know, it's been getting warmer here in Southern California. How's the temperature in your neck of the woods? And Katie Cross says, I sewed potato chip blocks today. Mindless sewing? Okay, so good to know I'm not the only one. That's what I like about the potato chip blocks. No heavy thinking. I have yet to sew a potato chip block. I should take out my 2.5-inch strips and start sewing that. Of course, if I'm making a potato chip block, I have to eat a bag of potato chips. That'll be a good excuse to make a block then. I will allow myself to eat a bag of potato chips while I make a potato chip block. Okay, so what am I doing here? I am just, yeah, that'll fit. So we'll sew this. Kelly Quilts and Cruises says she's made stitch and flip hearts. Showed my sewing group how to make them, and now they're on the bandwagon. No sewing today. That's sewing with Debbie. Sewing with Debbie says she did not do sewing. She was on the computer working all day. Oh, that's no fun. Whoops. And Candy Groovy 6 says, I like using scraps to test out blocks to quilt patterns I want to eventually do. I have orphan blocks because of that, but that's okay. There'll be a sampler quilt down the road. That's another thing that I will do with larger scraps is if I'm not sure of or if I want to test a certain technique, or if I'm not sure about the block construction, yeah, I will dig into my larger scraps and see if I can, before cutting into the good fabric, I will see if the pattern or whatever I'm trying to follow, or maybe if I just have this crazy idea in my head, I'll cut up the scraps and see if it works. Now, of course, with the farmer's wife quilt, even if I'm not 100% sure it'll work, I just come on live and wing it sometimes too. And you guys have seen the results of that sometimes. Of course, it's not good, and of course, it's entertaining for people to watch me make the mistake, as I've been told. So, but as long as you guys are having fun with me, so I'm okay with embarrassing myself on stuff like that. Okay. Debbie Ott says, I'm still cutting the stripes, Katie. Haven't started sewing them yet. Have 5 7-inch stacks so far of the strips. It's going to be a queen size quilt. Wow. And she also says, it gives me a sense of freedom to do scrappy. There is that sense of freedom. I will agree with you on that one, Debbie. Yeah, once I got over that hump of everything has to be matchy-matchy, no. Once I got over that, it just, I don't know, kind of just opened the door for me, as I said before. Hard part, though, is just letting go of all of that. So with Debbie says, improv quilts are an excellent way to loosen up and color outside the lines. Yep, I will say that. And with improv quilts, what I've also noticed is that when I was a beginning quilter, or even after having a couple quilts under my belt, if I wanted to just practice my 1/4 inch, or practice sewing my 1/4 inch, improv quilts or sewing crumbs like this, it's a good way to practice doing or testing how accurate your 1/4 inch seam allowance really is. And even if it's not perfect, who cares, because you're just sewing scraps together. As long as the seam doesn't come ripping open, you'll be fine. But I know a lot of beginning quilters, if they want to practice sewing their 1/4 inch on smaller pieces of fabric, or this is at least I would recommend, or at least I think so, that this is actually a very good way to practice that 1/4 inch. Okay. Sorry, Laura. The notification kind of came out late because I actually got home late, so I didn't. I don't know if YouTube pushed it out in time, so I do apologize for that. But you're here. That's what matters, Laura. So thank you for joining us here tonight. Okay, so see, like this, I have a white piece here, and I'm connecting it to another white piece there. I'm not going to worry about it. I know some people would stress out over something like that, though. Okay. But for those of you who just joined in, if you type in exclamation question of the video is very relevant to what I'm doing tonight. What do you consider a crumb? Again, for me, a crumb is any size piece of fabric that is smaller than 2.5 inches but larger than a 1 inch, and it usually entails, or it might entail, some odd shape like this triangle. I know a lot of people have said that they will use the cutoffs when you do like a stitch and flip or snowball a corner. And in some cases, I do have some really odd shapes because I fussy cut something out. So I'm just sewing crumbs here tonight, but what do you consider to be a crumb? Because I do believe that all of us have different definitions of what a crumb is for us. And it's not to say that one is right and one is wrong. I mean, who are we to be the quilting police? But it's just a matter of what you're comfortable with. I like sewing crumbs. It's just mindless sewing, and it's an opportunity to, be more creative with things. Uh, I do find that when people make crumb quilts, the quilt turns out to be a lot more interesting than using just regular fabric. For some, well, that's just my opinion. Because after a while, um, all quilts kind of start looking the same because how many times can you make a star block? Or how many times can you do, I don't know, a pinwheel? But when you do a pinwheel using crumbs, makes it a little bit different, makes it a little bit more interesting, at least in my opinion. Okay, let's see. Mona did what says, I love Scrappy. So do I. Well, I've learned to love Scrappy. I think getting rid of inhibitions is the easiest way to let go and go with the flow. Yep. How about this? Allow yourself to let it go. If that makes any sense. Or just give yourself permission to just play and try. I think there's a lot of things with quilting in which we always stress, oh, it has to be exact. But like your points have to match up. But I think with crumb quilting and scrappy quilting, maybe part of the difficulty is that you just have to let go of all of that precision and I don't know what the word is for it, but you know what I mean? I mean, when I first started quilting, every single tutorial and video as a beginner that I was watching, they all stress the importance of having an accurate 1/4 inch seam so that your points can match and that you press the fabric correctly certain ways. But when I got to, or when I started crumb quilting, scrappy quilting, I mean, some of those rules or some of those suggestions do hold up. But, especially when you're just sewing crumbs, a lot of them just can go right out the door. So it's sort of like you had to, for me at least, it was like I needed to retrain my mind how to, or rewire my brain how to think about quilting. Okay, I think, let's see, I love Scrappy too. That's Kelly Quilts and Cruises saying that. Toss the scraps. Okay, so Debbie Ott is suggesting toss the scraps in a bag or small tote. Reach in, just grab some without looking or sorting. I tried that too. That worked for me. It doesn't. I know some people say that it won't work for them because they always they have a mental block with just trying to sew pieces that don't exactly line up, like this. And I used to be that way, but notice that this gray doesn't go all the way down or match up with this yellow piece. But, over time, you're just going to say, what the heck, just sew it. And like right now, I'm just saying, what the heck, I'm just going to sew this purple piece to it because it's good enough. Okay. Oh, yep. Here's an odd shape. Look at this green piece where, I don't know, I might have been cutting off something at an angle. And it'll work. So I'm just kind of finger pressing the seam allowances open because these are fairly small, and the bulk that's gonna envelop, or it's gonna a lot of these blocks will just get really bulky, and they'll get really bulky with all these seam allowances. So I just tend to press it open, or I tend to press my block or the pieces open just to spread out the bulk in the back a little bit. It does help. It doesn't get rid of it, though. I will sew that like that. Okay. Oops. So Damali J says, sometimes I use them as leaders and enders. Yeah, I will do that too. Oops, sorry, that camera went out as well. I will actually use that too. And so, well, this isn't exactly a leader and ender, but what she's saying is when you're sewing, or if you're piecing blocks for a quilt, and instead of cutting the thread, you want to chain piece in something, just grab a couple scraps, chain piece that in, and cut your actual block that you're working on. You can cut that off. That's I don't know who actually coined that phrase, leader and ender. Was it Bonnie Hunter? I know she uses that term a lot. But does anybody know who was actually the very first, or who created that phrase? Oh, here's another awkward piece. Hey, Miss Nancy. Glad you made it here. Okay, Katie Craft says 1.5 inch is the smallest I'll keep, sometimes 2 inch. Just depends on the day. Yeah, I think I know what you mean by that. I think a crumb is anything less than 1 inch finished. If it's smaller than that, I can't work with it. Yeah, I hear you on that one, Laura. Yeah, for one person that I know of, a crumb to her was anything, or anything smaller than 5 inches. So anything smaller than 2.5 inches, she will just toss out. But if it's 5 inches or smaller, she considered it a crumb. And I was like, wow, okay, that's a pretty generous amount of fabric that you got there to call it a crumb. Now, granted, she considers herself a modern quilter, and she does big blocks. I mean, I'm talking like 17, 18-inch blocks. So you talk about big blocks. Yeah. She does not like anything tiny. And then she calls me crazy for saving a lot of these smaller pieces like this. Then I show her, well, she called me crazy for doing that. Then I actually showed her a crumb quilt that I made. And then she said, oh, okay, not bad. I see what you're doing. And then I was like, well, why don't you give it a try? She says, no, I'm not that crazy. I sew crumbs into long strips, then I cut in between them and repeat. That's Debbie Ott. Hello, Miss Gayla. And Laura Sup says, I use the crumbs of all different shapes and sizes, and when they're large enough to trim, I trim it to 10-inch blocks. Wow, you guys go for the big sizes. And here I am just doing only a 4.5-inch square. Donna Hoskins says, I made strips for my rag rugs and put it in a large bag, then struggled adding each strip. Okay. Guess who Nancy says? The crumb is smallish pieces and different shapes. To me, it's like a puzzle. Just put the pieces together. True. Yeah. I will agree with that definition. You're just kind of choosing random pieces and just sewing them together. And Debbie Ott says, I'd rather press all my seams open. Okay, well, eventually I do take these to the iron and press it, but if I'm just starting out the crumb pieces or just starting to sew them together, I usually just sit here and finger press it. But when it gets to be, how do I say this? When it gets to be a little bit too unruly, after maybe 5 or 6 pieces that are sewn together, I will take it to the iron and press it and then keep going. Okay. Good night, Sewing with Debbie. Thanks for stopping by. Suzanne Taylor, hey. She's saying Nancy Zimmerman used the same terms. Okay, so I guess she also used the term leader and ender. Yeah, I don't know who. I shall find out if any of my more knowledgeable quilting friends know who actually coined the term leader and ender. I watched a video the other day where the sewer called them thread savers. My ear thought that was odd. I've heard that before too. I used to call these thread savers, where I'm just sewing off onto a piece of scrap. Okay, I can sew this. This won't be quite long enough, but that's okay. Just keep sewing, just keep sewing, just keep sewing, 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 just keep sewing. I've also heard them called thread bunnies. I've heard that term too. That was Suzanne Taylor. Hi, Zarina. Tonight we're just sewing a bunch of whole crumbs and scraps together. That's what's up tonight, Zarina. So I will put that one. Yep, that looks good. So I'm just going for it. And then Google says Bonnie Hunter was the one that started the leader and ender. Well, that's funny because I know I have heard now that someone mentioned it, Suzanne mentioned it. I have heard Nancy Zeman also use that term, but I wonder if she got it from Bonnie Hunter. Maybe she did. Mm, Debbie Ott is asking, do I put sashing around my crumb blocks? Just depends on what I'm doing with the crumb blocks. So if I were, a lot of times I use these crumb blocks to make, or these crumb squares, I should say. I use it to make other blocks. So it just depends on the quilt that I'm doing or the project that I'm working on. Sometimes I typically don't sew these crumb blocks as it is. I'm usually cutting it up to make maybe like a half square triangle, to make a pinwheel block or so. But I don't think I've ever really sewn these crumb blocks just as it is. No. If I were to do, or if I'm just going to sew crumb blocks together and not make some other quilt block, like a half square triangle or whatnot, I'm just going to sew these blocks or sew these squares together. I probably would put a sashing in there just to sort of distinguish the square itself. I hope that makes sense. I think we all have our own kind of crazy. Yes, we do, Laura. Some more than others. um, Hi, Lori Clark. Just getting home from the barn. Well, glad you made it here tonight. Damali J says, I'm planning on making pillows or pin cushions with mini unsewable scraps. Just stuff them, reuse, recycle, or repurpose. Add sand or crushed walnut shells. That's one way to actually use up your scraps, is just to make smaller things. I just cut that off because I know that's not going to fit. Just keep sewing, just keep sewing, sewing, sewing. Okay, and I can at least once a month, I just kind of schedule in like a time to just sew crumbs. And usually when I'm doing this, I got my tablet set up here. Well, you can't see it on the camera, but I do have a tablet. And I just turn on Netflix and sew crumbs. Speaking of which, does anybody have any good Netflix shows that I can watch? Because I kind of ran out of stuff to watch on there. I'm all caught up with Bridgerton. What was I? Oh, I'm all caught up with that fashion show that I was watching. What is it? Next in Fashion? Actually, I don't think they have any new episodes. I think I was just watching the reruns. I'm going to put this one here. Debbie Ott says, I like watching Last Homely. Never heard of that show. Leaders and enders was a new term to me. I always called them spiders from Fawns and Porters. Never heard of spiders. That's a new one for me. Well, thank you for that, Jackie. All right, Candy. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Claudia, how you doing there, girl? She says she had unexpected company. That's the worst kind of company. Good night, Irish Sail Lady. Okay. Debbie Ott is saying or asking, did you say you make crumb pinwheels? If so, can you show one? Sure. If I can find it. Here, forgot where I put it, or forgot what container I put it in. Aha. Okay, so let me move all of this out of the way. So here's an example of something that I used scraps with, or actually these were string blocks, but you could also use it with your crumb blocks. And so what I did was I just took one piece of fabric, or one consistent piece of fabric, and then just made half square triangles out of it and put it together as a pinwheel. Do I have a crumb version of it? Okay, I actually don't have a crumb version of a pinwheel, but here's another example of what I normally do. So here I do have this crumb block in the center, but then I also made half square triangles out of a crumb block, or a smaller crumb block. Okay, so a lot of times, again, what as I was saying before, I will take that 4.5 inch crumb block. If I need a larger one, I'll put multiples of them together. Then maybe I'll take a look at this, and if I want to say, okay, I want to make a star block, well, I need half square triangles for it, so I will do like a 2 at a time half square triangle method, pair it up with something that is maybe a solid fabric. So this will do. So maybe I'll make a half square triangle like that, make a bunch of them, and once it's a half square triangle, the sky's the limit as to what kind of design block you can do. So yeah, that's normally what I do with these crumb blocks. It's very rare that I just keep it like that, and sew a bunch of crumb blocks to make the quilt top. If I were to do that, I probably would put a sashing around it, just so that you can kind of distinguish one crumb block from the next. But if I'm going for the look of just having multiple crumb blocks kind of come together, something like this, I mean, I could sew all 4 of these together, to make one larger block. But I wouldn't necessarily do a whole quilt top just like this with no sashing in between. I would probably prefer to have it separated so that you could distinguish one block from the next. So, yeah, just be creative with it, that's all. Boom. Okay, so it is past 8:30, so we've been on for a little over an hour. I hope that helps. Who was that? Yeah, I hope that helps you, Debbie. Maybe gives you some ideas as to what you can do with your crumb blocks instead of just sewing them together. Cut them up and make some half square triangles, make some pinwheels. Just use your imagination. Okay, Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2 drops Thursday. Yes, Diane, I am excited to watch that. Yeah, I gotta say the actor who plays Colin. Well, all of my coworkers actually agree with this. He got hot. Okay, Suzanne Taylor says the cop show Botch is really good. Ooh. I've been seeing it kind of come up. Is it on Netflix or Prime or on one of those streaming services? And I never bothered to watch it, so I guess I shall start watching that. Gayla Walter says I made a quilt as you go using crumbs to about a 9-inch block, then went around with strings, log cabin style. All those seams do make for a heavy quilt. Yeah, heavy and bulky quilt. Claudia Lautenslager says, Eric, I'm fine. You made me chuckle. Okay. Donna Hoskins says, the last homely house Kate from Northumberland in the northeast England. Okay, not sure what she means by that. But Laura Supp says, I don't know if you like documentaries, but my dad and I just watched Dancing for the Devil. We thought it was interesting. You have to like documentaries and true crime kind of stories to get into it. Ooh, Laura, you are talking my language because I do like to watch true crime. I used to watch, what's that show? Primetime Live, as well as what is the ABC version of it? 2020. And I used to follow, there's this one podcast, as I'm driving into work, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I used to follow this podcast called Crime Junkies. And oh my gosh, I would sit there and just listen to the stories. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys are totally stupid. And I would react to it. But I love true crime stories. Cat F says, finally found the So Kind of Wonderful book. It was on sale at a price I could afford. Maybe I'll start a curve project. All right, Kat. Well, come and join us next month. And Nancy says, I have to go. I have to take hubby to the doctor's appointment tomorrow, praying he gets to have his treatment. Okay, prayer warriors, let's all get out our prayers and keep Nancy and the husband in our prayers. Hey, Debbie Ott says, oh, that looks cool. Nice work. Oh, thank you, Debbie. All right. Okay, so I'm going to call it a live because it's past 8:30. I try to keep it to 1 hour. I do want to say thank you guys for joining me here tonight, even though I didn't have an official project. It was just sewing a bunch of crumbs. But I hope you guys got some ideas as to what you guys can do. Hope you guys got some good advice as to how to use your crumbs and how to overcome your inhibitions about sewing crumbs. I'll stay on just so I can catch up with the comments. But if you did have a question and I didn't answer your question, please type it in the chat now. I'll stay on for about another minute or so. And everybody's sending prayers to Nancy. Hope everything goes good. Debbie Ott says, thanks. I love the pinwheels. Okay, you're very welcome. Good night, Suzanne Taylor. Have a good week. Yes, Crime Junkies is the best. Oh, a fellow crime junkie herself. Donna Hoskins is saying good night. Good night, Donna. And Laura Sup says, I love true crime stories, and Dancing for the Devil sucked me in. It is 3 episodes, so not a huge investment. Okay. I'd be sad that it's only 3 episodes, though. Okay, so people are now starting to say good night. More prayers for Nancy and her husband. So let us know how it goes, Nancy. And am I caught up with the comments? Ooh, yeah. Okay, guys. So that is the live for tonight. I want to say thank you guys for joining me here. Maybe if I do feel better, or if I do get home on time on Thursday, we might actually do the block that I was supposed to do tonight for the Farmer's Wife quilt. But keep your alerts on and make sure that you do have the notifications turned on. I will try and put a post out there if I actually do end up going on live for Thursday. I'll try to get the post or get the word out as soon as I can. But I make no promises. Sorry. Now, Saturday, I more than likely am going to do like a late night crafting live because there's some gifts that I need to make and there's some crafting supplies that I need to use up. So, yeah, Saturday, more than likely, I will be doing a live session, probably starting around 8:30 p.m. after I know all of my other fellow YouTubers, YouTube friends, are all done with their lives. So, yeah, if you're up on a Saturday night and you just want to hang out and craft with me, come and join me on live, okay? All right, guys. Thank you guys again for joining me here tonight. Hope you get some inspiration and some good advice about sewing crumbs. So with that, I'm going to say good night. And you all know what I'm going to say. So let's all say it together. Let's all get out there and let's all create something. Mwah. Bye for now.